Yo, what up, y'all? I'm Vegas, and welcome to the Dungeons of Rap. This is Hip Hop Reviews, and today I'm going to review All Things Must Pass. I think that's what it's called, but it's the rise and fall of Tower Records. I checked it out on Showtime. It's about the record store, Tower Records, that used to exist, that was big back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and it was $1 billion company worldwide, extravagant stores with all this music in it, and eventually, it fell bankrupt for a number of reasons. And what's dope about this this documentary is the fact that, it really shows you, like, for one, from a business standpoint, how something that's a mom and pop spot can go from, I can't remember what one of the founders, no, well, not founders, but one of the CEO's father, it was his store, but they sold something, I can't remember exactly what it was, but then eventually it was Tower Books, and then it was Tower Records. And what was dope about not only seeing that business from a business standpoint, seeing something that's a mom and pop, in one place, expand to almost like Apple levels, as far, and McDonald's levels, as far as having stores in Japan and Germany and Russia, I think places just everywhere, just expanding to all these different areas, and to see it just all crash as a result of a number of things, from people, the business tactics with selling records and all kinds of things like that, and we'll get into some of that. But I thought it's a dope documentary, because when you look at the formats, from vinyl to cassette, 8-track, CDs, you see, and even like the different eras of music, where you had funk and soul and rock and pop and hip hop, and you just had all these different things, like just keeping the business booming. And then you get to CD, and it's still popping, but somewhere in the 90s, in the mid 90s to the late 90s, where it kind of reached its peak, and it wasn't until like things like the internet came around and Napster, where it became this battle. And I think that's what's kind of dope about the documentary, because if you know a little bit about Tower Records, or you don't know anything, or you don't know anything about a record store, walking in a record store and buying music like that, because let's be honest, you go into your Best Buys, you go into your Walmarts, the music section, the CD section is dead. It's dead, unless you're gonna buy something that's like a Taylor Swift maybe, or a Kanye. It has to be somebody really huge, really popular, for you to just walk in and buy their CD. But if it's something that's really dope, critically acclaimed, but maybe this is a new guy, chances are it might not be in there. And one of the things about the documentary that I really like probably was just showing how the internet helped to kill Tower Records. The internet, the record business, as far as the consumers go, because this was the main thing too. The consumers, and that's me and you, after a while, when places like Tower Records were going up and down on their prices as far as CDs, because they got rid of selling like singles and things of that nature, because they wanted you to buy the whole album, because they didn't like the idea of you walking in the store and you really care about the single, you don't even care about the album. And if the single is $2.99, $3.99, but the album is $20, what are you going to get? You're going to get the song you like, And what wound up happening is they stopped doing that. Well, some people stopped really buying records like that, especially when things like Napster came along. And Napster, even for people who are even younger, was a place where people were sharing files. And not just music, but music was took the biggest hit. So there was no need to go to the store to get the singles that they already didn't have, because you can get it from somebody else who had them. Or you can get the whole album if you want it, because this person has this album and you have this album, and it's all this sharing, and nobody's going out to Tower Records. And I remember personally like having to deal with the CDs feeling like they went from being like $10, $11, maybe $12 max to like 20 something dollars. And that wasn't that long ago, you know what I'm saying, where you would go in spots like Tower Records and it would be like that. And you know, that played a role as far as pricing. And then Tower Records saw a lot of stiff competition from the Best Buys and the Walmarts, because what would they do? Okay, well, Tower Records is selling it for $22, the whole album. I'm gonna go over to, you know, Walmart and get it for $10.99, the same album. So it was a point where their business at one point, when they were the place to go for the music, was huge, so they kept expanding. But then these other ways for us to get the music we love, cheaper in other ways, started to take over. And by that time, they had built so much debt as far as trying to maintain all of these stores that, you know, they eventually crumbled. And I think it's a dope documentary to watch because it's educational. You know, whether you like hip hop or you like any other genre of music, or you like business. And it's a lesson in business. It's a lesson in gambling. You know what I'm saying? They don't call me Vegas for no reason. You know, it's a lesson to be learned that you gotta watch the market. You know what I'm saying? You gotta pay attention to what's going on. You gotta, you know when you can jump in and know when you gotta jump out. And I mean, it happens with everything. Things get old, things go away. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at something like Blockbuster. You know, Blockbuster was big until Netflix slowly started to chip away at them with the CDs, and I mean, not the CDs, but renting DVDs and have them mailed in. And then once Netflix got the streaming service, Blockbuster couldn't keep up. You know what I'm saying? So now, I mean, even though I believe there's like one or two, Blockbuster is basically dead. You know what I'm saying? And that was the same thing for Tower Records. And it's kind of sad, because when you think about the resurgence of something like vinyl, and I mean, there are people, including myself, who are buying vinyl in droves. Like, I remember going and spending close to $300. I couldn't even believe I did that. And that was just off of vinyl in 2015. You know what I'm saying? Unheard of. But certain things, you know, you can predict, and some things you can't. You know what I'm saying? And business is finicky like that. And as we can see with the music industry, forget the death of CDs. That been happened. We've already transitioned to a point where now people buy singles digitally instead of buying the album, because of stuff like iTunes. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of hurting the record industry. And now you have streaming services where, you know what? Instead of me buying all these singles or buying every album that come out that I'm interested in, how about I pay $10 a month and I get to hear not only the new stuff, but the old stuff, mixes that are curated for myself. You know what I'm saying? It's just a shame that Tower Records couldn't take advantage of that, because they banked so much on what was currently going on when they were successful. And not to give too much away from the documentary, but they did have a website and a delivery service early on with the internet, but it's one of those things where that was too soon. You know, it was before Amazon or anything like that, but it was too soon. You know, they couldn't fill the orders until a certain date. A lot of people didn't have computers in their home or even on their hip like we do now. So it was almost a too little too late thing. And even though it's sad from a nostalgic standpoint, it's still a very dope and educational watch. So you should check that out. All Things Must Come to Pass or something like that. But it's the rise and fall of Tower Records. It's on Showtime, so if you have Showtime or maybe some kind of renting service, check it out, man. You learned something, man. It's gonna do it for me. You know what I'm saying? You can follow me on Twitter at VegasWorldINC and like my page, Facebook.com/hiphop right now. Got other videos coming. I have some old ones you can watch. You know, so we're going to keep it going. You know what I'm saying? But until next time, I'm not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.